Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Meltem Zeytinoglu, or Dr. Zay, returning with you in our series with Kobler Diabetes Center on taking care of yourself with diabetes during the Kobler pandemic, what feels like week 72 of the pandemic. And I am so excited today to welcome with us our registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator, Taylor Durkin. Welcome, Taylor. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, Dr. Zeytinoglu. Thank you for having me. This is very wonderful to be a part of the Kohler videos. There's been so much great information.
Well, we're so lucky to have you, and especially over the last 2 or 3 weeks as we've started to ramp up video visits, I've been lucky to be able to see you, and our patients are happy to get to see you again and get some nutrition advice. And so that's what we're going to work on today on our diet and nutrition. So, you know, we've all been struggling now. Everybody is getting tired of eating at home. You know, that there are some benefits. We're hopefully eating a little healthier, but maybe eating a little more too. But let's give everybody a little boost today and a little bit of encouragement. What are some ways that we can simplify meal planning and meal preparation during the shelter in place?
Yeah, that is a question of the hour these past few weeks, 72 weeks, if you will. But meal planning, we want to always keep simple. It can be very daunting, especially when we're not only cooking for ourselves, but for a household with a lot of taste preferences, young kids, spouses, partners, etc., where everyone has a little different taste for what they want. And at the end of the day, we want to keep things as healthy as we can, right? And what does healthy eating mean? It means different things to many of us, but at the end of the day, we want to be striving to have less processed foods overall, ultra processed foods, right? And be cooking things that require maybe a little bit of preparation, like of course your vegetables, can't go wrong there. Representing different food groups with lean proteins, whole grains, high fiber grains, of course, like your quinoa, brown rice, things like that. Your legumes, of course, as well, healthy fats. So at the end of the day, we want to be including a variety of food groups, and that way we can be getting our different macronutrients and then also different vitamins and minerals from the variety there. So meal planning means understanding what you plan to be making and what you need to be shopping for, by also taking into account some of the things maybe the household wants as well. So a simple place to start is have a conversation with those in the household, or if it's just you or one other person, of just writing down what you may want to make. Maybe starting with even just 1 or 2 or 3 dinners and build off of that. So starting simple and then maybe getting more advanced.
And even bringing in the kids for this, although they're prone to change their minds maybe as the week goes on and forget what they wanted earlier in the week, but asking them and exciting them to be part of the process too.
Exactly. We know it's so crucial to have kids a part of mealtime. Sitting down at the table together is so important for the health of your family. And when we get kids involved in meal preparation, it engages them and exposes them to maybe different foods that they otherwise don't like or haven't tried before. But it really involves them and gives them, a part of that process so that they actually chose to make this as well, or decided to have it. So.
And for the younger kids, counting, right, and measuring, in part of the preparing as well.
Yes, it's an opportunity for instruction with carb counting, of course, for those of us who may need to be monitoring our carbohydrate intake at meals and at snacks. So it's always cooking as a teachable moment to show children who maybe need to be working on carb counting how to do that by reading labels, taking out the measuring cups and measuring spoons, and understanding this is what a cup of pasta looks like, and this is what half a cup of beans looks like. So it's can be a teachable moment as well for kids and also adults.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because studies have shown that even adults, that we do, and even professionals, we do a terrible job of estimating food quantities and you know, carb counts. And so what are some sort of just very crude estimates that you teach our patients? You know, I know we use the fist and things like that. What are some things?
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up, because actually, to your point, is carb counting is challenging, right? There's different food brands, the way things are cooked, whether it's, we know, like for rices, right? You could fill up a cup, you could pack it in, and therefore you have more carbs in a cup. So we know that's challenging, and the best we can do is pull out those measuring cups and at least get some sense of what it looks like, right? If we have never seen what a cup of a certain food looks like, we're not going to know. So at home, of course, using your measuring cup. Some of us use food scales as well, which can come a little more cumbersome, a little labor intensive, but some of us may do that. But I'm so glad you brought this up, because I have something from diabetes.org, the American Diabetes Association, about our favorite plate picture here.
Yes.
I don't know if you could see that here.
Yes.
And what is on the back of here, and what you had said, Dr. Zeytinoglu, is using your fist to help with compare to different measuring cups and common measurements. So the classic one we always hear is taking your fist and comparing that to a cup of something. And we all know we have different size fists, right? So if you have some time, you could take your fist and compare it to a measuring cup. Actually, in this diagram, this is roughly about a cup here. So
you have a pretty good,
slightly there.
Perfect size hand for that. Yeah.
Yes, but then some of us, our fist might be maybe a cup and a half, 2 cups. So again, it is a guesstimation. It isn't perfect, but at least it gives us into some kind of ballpark, so that we can estimate, is it 40 grams of carbs, 60, 75? You know, it could span a range. So at least it gives us some type of estimation.
And so now let's talk a little bit about specific foods. And so it's been really interesting to see the evolution of the stock at the grocery stores. So unfortunately, one thing that's remained pretty constant is produce has been pretty full. The frozen veggies, in the beginning, I was pretty surprised. It was the processed foods that were going pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And only recently have I started to see that the frozen veggies and fruits are really, you know, empty in the shelves. So, you know, obviously, it's not just because people don't like to eat fruits and veggies, and not everyone likes to eat them, but it's also because they can be expensive. And so let's talk 2 things about the fresh, the fully stocked produce aisles. Let's talk first about things that are lower cost, that can be good. And then also about things that keep. You know, we're trying to tell people, if you can, you know, try to spread your grocery store visits. You know, maybe go every other week instead of every week. And so what are some types of produce, especially for our patients with diabetes, that may keep longer? Any particular tips on those 2 things, lower cost and shelf life?
Yeah, definitely. I know this has been the grocery stores have really cleared the shelves, and there's been some things temporarily unavailable, which we're not used to when we've had to adjust and substitute. But for those lower cost items, when it comes down to fresh produce, we know that buying in season typically is lower cost. So if you do peruse like the circular, you know, what you get delivered to you, but also looking at that unit pricing at the store is so helpful, because oftentimes there's the big amount, the sum of $1.99 a pound, but when you look into that unit pricing, the price per ounce, that's where you can really see and compare the lower cost and figure out the lower cost items. So such as 20 cents an ounce versus 34 cents an ounce.
Mhm.
And little by little, those things add up. So I always
Mhm.
like to remind everyone to look at the small tag where it's labeled. But we also know that frozen also can typically be lower cost as well, and which has lasted longer. But we also can buy, like for instance, your fresh produce like broccoli or carrots, and freeze those types of items as well, which can elongate their shelf life. So looking for, I say, onions, for the non-starchy vegetables, onions, different squashes typically can give you lower cost. Spaghetti squash, acorn squash.
And can last a long time.
Exactly.
Easily. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Can last longer. Potatoes, although they are a starchy vegetable, can definitely fit into our diet. We want to be having more of the non-starchy vegetables, of course. Those are always usually lower cost. And then some of your greens, buying some of your already chopped hardier greens like kale can last quite some time, mustard greens, even like cabbages as well.
And you can freeze those, right?
Mm-hmm.
Freeze the greens also, and get creative, putting them in soups and things like that, stews.
Exactly. Yeah, you can freeze those. I often take for some of the greens that spoil quicker, your spinaches or your chopped like romaine, those type of pre-cut salad mixes, is just put like a toilet, not a toilet paper, where my brain is, a paper towel in them.
Yes.
to absorb the extra moisture, and that can help elongate the shelf life.
Yeah.
But other root vegetables, of course, will always stay longer. Beets, parsnips, turnips, which fall into that non-starchy category list. So,
and when you don't know what to do with them, you can throw them in a pot and just, make, with some broth, and you've got yourself a quick soup, and it's, you don't have to get creative. A lot of our brains are exhausted, even though we've got more time. Some of us have more time on our hands. There's also the mental fatigue from the news and the instability. And so easy is good. Simple meals are good right here.
Yeah. And simple is okay.
And what about fruits? I think our patients with diabetes get scared and they think they shouldn't have any fruits, but we're not actually, fruits are not all so bad. And so what do we think about fruits?
Yeah, there's always a big question about fruit intake, and fruit is nature's dessert, right? It does have naturally occurring sugars, so of course will raise our blood sugar. Sugars are a carbohydrate, so it's going to raise our blood sugar. But the bottom line with fruit is not having too much of it. So there are definitely our higher fiber fruits that we know that with more fiber, that tends to not raise our blood sugar as quick and as much. So we'd like to emphasize more, your berries will of course have more fiber. So raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, and
frozen too, right?
Exactly. And take a look, just always take a look at that label, turn it around, make sure there's no added sugar to it. Most of the fruits don't. So just looking for that in the frozen section. There's great blends with, even peaches or mangoes. And again, the carbohydrate amount is listed on that package. So take into account that serving size. And usually we think about a serving of fruit as, a small, back to that cup or fist size, small, like tennis ball size, we can compare it to. Also fruits with the peel, apples, pears as well. Peels will have some of that fiber as well.
Okay.
I think a common misconception is about bananas and grapes, which they do tend to cram a little more sugar in a smaller package. That is right. So buying smaller bananas is key. And just spacing our fruit intake out as well.
Okay, wonderful. And are there any particular nutrients or foods that are immune boosting that patients often want to know, and we all want to know?
Yeah, that has been a big question right now. And, we know that there isn't just one single food or nutrient that is going to boost our immune system, but we know that a healthy eating and working or a healthy eating pattern is important no matter what during this, pandemic, and not right to to build our immune system to keep it healthy. So there are some key nutrients we want to make sure we're getting. And we could do that by, again, eating a variety of food groups. But some key macronutrients would be ensuring we're getting enough protein in. We know that protein is a building block for many of our cells and different, I guess, if you will, chemicals, enzymes, hormones that are made in our body. So we do want to make sure we're ensuring to get adequate protein from, our poultry, fish, eggs, beans, lentils, nuts, yogurts, things like that. Another common vitamin that comes up into question is vitamin C, right? That's usually that comes up around flu season. So we don't necessarily need to be taking vitamin C supplements necessarily, but by adding in enough fresh or frozen vegetables and fruit, we'll be getting vitamin C. So your citrus fruits, your red, orange vegetables, tomatoes, cantaloupe, even broccoli, your greens,
right?
pepper, exactly.
Yeah.
So we can get it naturally, really. That bottom line with the whole eating the rainbow, they were onto something there.
Okay. Plus it's fun to look at, right? And what about now, going to the grocery store, and is it safe to go to the grocery store? Are there specific precautions that we should be taking? And are there delivery options, especially for some of our patients who are more vulnerable, who are older with diabetes, or, who have other comorbid conditions like high blood pressure, heart disease, things like that?
Yeah, what some companies have been doing, they've been adapting quite quickly. So things have been changing. And for what I've seen in the Chicagoland area, most of our grocery stores are taking precautions to remind patrons to, of course, keep social distancing 6 feet apart, even have some stickers on the floor to remind us, and even limiting how many people can even go in the store and shop. So they're also just making it easier for us shoppers. But of course, we always want to be washing our hands a lot and not touching our face, following the CDC guidelines. That's the bottom line, right? That they have the best resources there. So not touching our face, wearing a mask where it's appropriate, when you can. At this time, that sounds like that's the recommendation at this point. So
starting tomorrow in Illinois, here in Illinois, right? Everybody is going to be recommended to wear a mask all the time.
And yes, those recommendations I'm sure will evolve even more as this.
Or a scarf. If you don't have a mask, you can wear a cloth covering too. Any kind of barrier that will allow, if everybody has some sort of a barrier, it's not a perfect thing, but it blocks some of those particles from, if you sneeze or breathe heavily, from getting out into the air around you.
Yeah, and other things at the store, they're offering wipes, or if you aren't sure they'll have that, bring your own wipes that you can have, antibacterial wipes to disinfect your cart, or bring your own hand sanitizer as well to before and after as well. And also, in that same vein, back to meal planning, is have a grocery list so that you don't have to spend a lot of time in the store.
Yeah, that's a great, or spend extra money when you don't go plan. That's what I do. I don't plan, and then I go and I spend a lot of money on things I don't need sometimes. So that's a great idea.
Exactly. There's a lot of reasons for it. Saving money, reduce food waste.
Yes.
Stick to your plan. Help with keeping, us on track to buy what we need and maybe not more.
Yes.
And maybe stick to maybe some of the less healthy foods that we don't always want to keep in the cart. But again, back to moderation, we need to have that as well for some of those fun foods.
And then keeping also consideration in the beginning of the month, the WIC, you trying not to purchase those things in the beginning of the month if you have the means to not buy WIC things. Is that right? The WIC program, are you familiar with that?
Oh yes, women, infant, children.
Yes. And so that's when a lot of people have their shopping done in earlier in the month, and so I know we're going to try to do another video with some other community resources, But are there any other programs that we're using locally for our patients? I know some people are calling 311 to have help. Meals on Wheels is still actively delivering meals. Is there anything else that you know of?
That is a great question. I believe there's quite a few ways to find some of that. I don't have anything on top of mind. There are local food banks still operating.
Yeah.
The Greater Chicago Food Depository. So
Yes,
I always tell anyone if they were interested in going to a pantry to always call ahead and make sure they are having their same hours. And then, if you need assistance, there are, SNAP users, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, of course,
yes,
to inquire in that. I don't know the status on reevaluating kind of the supplemental program and how that allotment is going. What else is there? I think we have some information on our Kovler website, or we can add some more because there had been some.
Yes. And we'll have some updated things with one of our colleagues too, who's been helping us with that too. So we'll have Elizabeth one day too when she's able to. Well, I have two more questions for you. What about I just had this morning with eggs, with a carton of eggs. It said sell by May 1st, and that's tomorrow. So when should I stop really using those eggs?
That is a great question. Those dates, there's a few terminology on the food packaging.
Use by, sell by.
Freeze by. And many of those are not necessarily safety dates, if you will.
Okay.
So they are, more voluntary labeling, and it's really just what the manufacturer thinks for freshness. So actually, I've just read a little more about this on the FDA website. They had more information on that, which is a great resource if you are looking to understand how long a shelf life of something is. But actually, eggs have, I believe it's like about 3 weeks in the fridge. They should stay good for, even potentially even longer, like 5 weeks. May not taste the best, but
freshest, yeah.
Bottom line though, use your intuition. If it doesn't smell good or it looks off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that goes for all foods, right?
All foods, exactly.
The smell and texture tests kind of is what should guide us. Okay. That's important as we're being more mindful of both our resources and, a lot of us are struggling with either job loss or salary or furlough, cuts. And so it's important. And then also food production. We don't know what the, production status will be for everything. And so I think that's really helpful. Thank you. So my last question is, what have been your favorite things to prepare during this time? What are your favorite foods to, well, we didn't even get to talk about, unhealthy snacks. So actually I have two more questions. So what are some healthy snack and meal ideas too? So we'll tie those two questions in together.
Yeah, great question. We've been making quite a bit of soups here. It's something that we've been relying on for many of our lunches, just something quick to grab during the day. So
hearty and
and comforting when the Chicago weather is cold but rainy. So many like turkey, chili, and soups, and we're able to cram in tomatoes, zucchini.
Lots of nutrients. Okay. Okay.
So that has been really great. A lot of bean soups, if you will.
Yeah.
And then taking some of the frozen poultry and fish and making some tacos out of those and doing some stir-fried vegetables on the side have been pretty easy. Again, some quick things. Been using some canned meats as well. Some canned tuna and sardines that have gone on some either some salads or some whole grain toast. Or in wraps.
Quick and easy, but nutrient rich.
Yeah. Like you said, making eggs, baking some egg casserole ahead of time, or like a frittata, having that. Yogurt, as always, kind of can
I'm
be a
missing your
snack.
frittatas from work. That's why I'm smiling now. So Taylor usually shares her homemade goodies. And then how about some healthy snack ideas for, it's hard. You're cramped up in the house all day. You're watching TV. You're just stressed out. And so it's human nature, but of course our waistlines and our blood sugars are not happy with what we're doing. And so what are some healthy snacks that we can rely on if we have to? Remember that movement and just getting up and walking around the house even, or outside if you can, or drinking some tea or water. But if we can and we really need this snack, what do we eat instead? What are some options?
Yeah, so definitely making sure you have things that are easy, that you enjoy, but that won't necessarily maybe be too high in sugar, added sugar, or more of those empty calories from like fried things like chips. And those are often what we think of as snacks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Chips, Cheez-Its, things like that. And they have a place and time, right? So we want things that are going to be filling. So something with fiber, something with a little protein, healthy fat. So I always like to pair a few things. So if we're having a fruit that is a carbohydrate, has fiber in it, let's pair it with some filling protein like a peanut butter and healthy fat. So that can kind of give us some longevity there.
Okay.
And also can help with more potentially, stabilizing blood sugars, with that mixture of macronutrients. Yogurts are always very quick, so always low sugar yogurts. If you like Greek yogurts, those might be a little better.
Lots of protein
there.
Okay.
So taking a look at the label, or plain putting your own fruit would definitely be the best. Cottage cheese. A little popcorn, air pop popcorn. You could do that at home, much better than chips.
Okay.
We get typically a little more volume out of that for the carbohydrates as well. So about 3 cups of popcorn will be about 15 grams of carbs.
Okay.
So that's always quick too. Keeping things in your freezer like edamame, you can microwave that up a little different.
Yeah.
I like to sprinkle just a little bit of seasoning on it, like garlic powder or a touch of salt. Can be fun too.
Okay, good. Those are wonderful ideas. Well, thank you so much. I think that, I think food is can be medicine, as we always talk about, and we don't have to dread what food does to us, like many of us do, when we eat the wrong things. So we really appreciate all you're teaching us and all you do for us, and we thank you for your advice today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zay. I wanted just to add a few more things about when we're thinking about food, and during these challenging time, we're often more prone to boredom eating, emotional eating, and where we might get into snacking. So some things to keep in mind are, it's okay. It happens to a lot of us, but we want to also make sure we do what we can so that it is keeping our blood sugars in a healthy range, or that we can, keep an eye on that. So with that is, have a regular meal pattern. Try not to skip meals and get into that snacking where then we aren't really full, and just eat more of maybe not necessarily the most healthy foods. That's important. And also, staying hydrated and keeping active with other hobbies as well is key. And then one more thing I also wanted to add is with, healthy eating at home, we want to do the best we can with the grocery shopping and meal preparation. But I know a lot of us want to be supporting our local businesses and restaurants too.
Yes.
So, something to keep in mind is, of course, we would want to support our community and, friends and others who are working in the hospitality industry. And we can make healthy decisions when we're dining out. So trying to keep in mind getting in more vegetables, ordering those when we can, limiting fried foods where we can, and just overall watching our portions that we plate from those foods. So just some other things too.
Thank you so much. Those are, I forgot to ask you for those closing points, and I'm so glad. And asking for light oil, or using Pam instead of oil, or like spray. Those are really light sauce or sauce dressing on the side. Those are actually, I'm so glad you brought that up. And then water is huge. I do this all the time. You know, I brought my big water here, but it's almost full. It's been sitting there all day waiting for me to drink it. And what I'll do, exactly, what I'll do is I'll think I'm hungry later and probably eat more than I should because I haven't had enough water. And so drinking our water throughout the day is so important. I'm really glad you reminded us all, including me, of that important tip. So thank you so much. Any last things now, since I forgot to ask you?
Not at all. I was just putting those last minute plugs and things that were on my mind.
Should be at the beginning. Those are really important. Well, thank you so much. If we think of anything else, we'll have another little video. You take care and be well. Okay, Taylor, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Zay. Bye, everyone.